On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we have some exciting news from Star Trek Picard showrunner Terry Matalas, plus our review of Prodigy 1x15, Masquerade, right after these skippable subspace messages from our mystery sponsors.
Ooh, we might even talk about the Outrageous Okona.
Oh yeah, we could talk about the Outrageous Okona too.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where two lifelong friends sit and spin a yarn about the wagon train to the stars. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, bad things this week.
Yeah, sounds like you've had a rough one.
Yeah, I got COVID and our cat died, and now my wife has COVID. It's not a fun time.
Yeah,
but
that sounds terrible.
Some cool Star Trek stuff happened, so.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here to do. We turn away from all the things in our real life, and when we talk to each other, we generally stick to the escapism.
Yep.
Because who wants to hear about our lives?
Pick ourselves up, we, wipe off our musty genitals and talk about Star Trek.
Gross.
Look, if you're sick and you've been laying on the couch watching news radio all week, your undercarriage is a little musty.
I didn't need to know that this was an actual assessment of your current situation. That was too far. See, the first bit was just like, oh, that's classic Dave Robertson right there, just saying a thing to gross me out.
How you doing?
Now you've really done it.
Maybe one of those plastic orange peelers that just pull away at the Fermunda cheese. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh! To turn away from this conversation, I feel like a Star Trek audience would appreciate that. Tonight I have to stay up late. I'm not going to get to edit this tonight probably because I have to stay up late and burn a DVD for a client.
Yeah.
Who uses DVDs anymore?
How did they hire you from the past?
I don't know. Some sort of quantum tachyons. I don't know.
It's like your client shot a tractor beam into a freaking proton cloud in the middle of space.
Yep. And
hired you.
It's crazy. You know what it blows my mind though is last year I did this this is the third year in a row I've done this for this client. Made this DVD for them to run over their closed circuit television system, and I was like, okay, well it's an old university. I'm sure it's just like an old DVD player in their thing. So this year I got a message. Hey, they got a new system, so we'll let you know. We don't know what format they need yet. And I was like, oh, okay, MP4, M4V, .mov.
Mm-hmm. QuickTime, for Christ's sake.
Whatever. Any of those digital formats that I could bring a thumb drive or send it online, which would be much preferable.
Right.
And then they messaged me. Yep, sounds like they still need a DVD. I was like, what? They upgraded their system and they still need a DVD to play something? I don't understand.
Yeah. Can you put it on VHS for us?
I had to do that a few years ago. I don't know, it was 5 years ago for the UAB OSCE thing.
Oh.
Yeah, that
you had to put
timing,
it on VHS?
Yeah, that timing tape.
I remember
it was
that.
my voice, saying over the... we used to work at this thing.
It's the student training, the med school student training. Yeah,
it was med school training. And it was you've seen it in Seinfeld. Kramer did this. People have to go in and they're the actors and actresses pretend to have diseases, and med students come in and diagnose them. Yep. Well, I did that, but I was the video guy. But they hired me to make a timing tape, and so it was my voice going over the loudspeaker the whole day. I was like, "Please proceed to the next station." It's fun times, but it had to be VHS, and that was not long ago. Yeah, not nearly VHS long ago.
It wasn't acceptable.
I had to pull out an old VHS recorder and connect it to my computer somehow. It was crazy. Okay, well, let's talk about Star Trek. You say you got some news, I hear.
I do. There was an interview with Terry Matalas for the latest issue of Den of Geek magazine, and he said that in his mind he would have called the new Picard season Star Trek Legacy. He says it is truly a Picard story. Picard is the focus, but the spirit of it is different than seasons 1 and 2 just because of what it is. And he says, I think it's important to Deep Space Nine fans to feel seen. It's a continuation of Voyager 2, of course, with 7 of 9 in our show. If you're going to be in this time period, there's such a rich opportunity to honor what came before. He says season 3 picks up a year and a half to 2 years after season 2. He says season 3 will include some legacy characters from both DS9 and Voyager, in addition to Worf and Seven, which we've already heard before.
Wow.
And says he has previously said that Worf's path, since Nemesis has a connection to the Dominion War, and in a summer of 22 interview with Trek Movie, Matalas said the fallout of the Dominion War is very important to the plot of Picard season 3.
Yeah, it being called Legacy, and they're talking about DS9 people being seen. I'm wondering if this villain might have something to do with the Dominion War.
Maybe. But yeah, in this new interview with Den of Geek, he says, I just felt like Picard season 3 needed to feel like it fit into this universe. It was very important to me, first and foremost, that it treads new ground, but also feels like a continuation of the stories and arcs set up 30 years ago. There's a fine line between fan service and just honoring the universe that you're in. So I just went full tilt at the things that mattered to me.
Nice. I love it, man. That sounds super exciting. And I really do feel like this probably means if the story has to do, and the story has a villain, it has a real antagonist. If the story has to do with the Dominion War, I've got to imagine that character must have something. And war is always something that like breeds, antagonists, like people that just had hard times during war, have hard feelings for all kinds of reason on all sides. And, it could be someone that's mad at either side of that war and trying to do something for revenge, Those wars don't end easily. That's exciting.
It is. I'm very interested. I'm excited, but also trying to temper my expectations.
Yeah,
because Picard season 1 and 2.
Yes, because of everything that's been happening. Not that they're bad, but some tempered expectations were in order.
Yeah. I got into a little bit of hot water. I did an episode of that Star Trek podcast with our friends over at Cosmic Potato, or Infinite Potatoes, as they're called now. And I said part of the reason I do podcasts is just so that I can have it out there somewhere. No matter how many people listen, someone needs to know that we had better ideas than the show had.
It's good.
But yeah. But that's what I got on that, and we can move on. Do you want to talk about Outrageous Okona first, or you want to talk about Prodigy 115?
Yeah, let's just touch on Outrageous Okona.
Was it as bad as I said it was?
No, not at all. I loved it.
Okay.
I thought it was great. Okay. Even the Data and Joe Piscopo stuff, I was like, man, this is some classic 90s schlock. Like, I agree, it's not like a great sci-fi story, but you know what it reminded me a lot of? The Gary 7 episode. It felt like a backdoor pilot.
But you didn't like.
I hated that. But it was more like, I think I just hate that era of like that sort of spy show that doesn't feel like a spy show. That had its own problems. But what I'm saying is it felt like a backdoor pilot to me. Like it felt like they were trying, especially knowing that he was possibly going to be Riker and like all this stuff. They liked this guy. It makes me wonder if they were like going for like, wonder if we can spin off an Okona show. Because
I don't think they were.
I mean, it was so Okona focused. The way he solved the problem in the end was all like, it was very much not Star Trek-ish at all. It felt very much like his show.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And it reminded me of the Gary 7 episode.
Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, no, I don't like the Outrageous Okona. It's not the worst Star Trek ever. There are plenty of episodes I dislike more, but I will say I did take exception to, and maybe this is because of something that happened in the Dominion War. Clearly, something happened to him. He's lived a rough life, and by the time we get to Prodigy, but he was willing to like sacrifice himself basically and marry that lady in Outrageous Okona.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he was. I don't think he was.
You don't think he was?
No, that was a play, man.
You think that was just a play?
Yeah, because he wasn't gonna give up. Because if he had said, "Yeah, they're together,"
yeah.
You know, the prince and the princess. If he had said they're together, it would have been blowing up their spot. It would have like given him up, given him away. It would have been him breaking his promises. But if he says, "Oh," it was a total Solomon move. It was like cut the baby in half thing, where he's like, "Oh, well, I'll just have to marry her then," and it's like, oh, that does seem like a solution to the problem, but it doesn't give the prince what he wants, and it made him profess his love. He was like drawing the prince out, and the princess was really upset that he wasn't standing up for himself and just saying like, "No, I love her. Let me have her." And then so Okona was spinning his little. He was puppet mastering them, and I liked that. I liked it.
Yeah, but you know, by Prodigy, I just didn't like that because I liked his character enough that it makes me cringe to be like, God, you just left these kids to their death in Prodigy. You're an asshole.
Did he? Yes, yeah. I'm not even really remembering where he ended up. He was just like disappears in this episode.
No, he actively was like, "Well, I guess it's time for me to move on." While the Tal Shiar are surrounding these kids, ready to kill them.
Yeah, it is the Tal Shiar. I don't know. Like, I see what you're saying. He also has that line a few moments earlier where he's like, first an admiral and now the Tal Shiar? Like, what are you kids doing? Yeah. He's like, this is above my pay grade. I'm out of here. Yeah.
And there's a whole thing where, like, in the last 2 episodes of Prodigy, they, like, really did a number. Like, he's smuggling illegal stuff, like, but he was so adamant to Picard, I'm not a criminal. And it turns out, no, he wasn't. So stuff has gone down, and they brought up, like, the showrunners and stuff brought up for Prodigy that, like, oh yeah, he's gone through a lot of stuff. They didn't really touch on any of that here.
Well, he did tell that one story.
He told the story that happened on TNG.
Yeah.
He had one story that time on TNG.
But see, I didn't believe him on that episode of Star Trek Next Generation when he tells, on the Outrageous Okona, when he tells Picard he's not a criminal. I didn't believe him.
Okay.
I think he was just telling him. He was telling him what he needed to tell the Federation to get away with what he was doing.
Maybe.
Yes, in this case, he wasn't as criminal. He didn't steal the thing. The guy gave it to him to give to her. But
it's just, you know, when we assume that he's like, we assume he's disreputable until he's not. And that was his one appearance. And all we have to go on is the fact that he said he wasn't a criminal. And it turned out he wasn't. And we've never seen him again. Except when he was DJing that party on Lower Decks. There's nothing criminal about that.
I just didn't believe him in that case. Or like, I didn't think that he was... he was definitely like a smuggler or something, you know. He was still smuggling in those episodes. He just wasn't smuggling something that was illegal. He didn't steal. He didn't steal it. He was still smuggling, though. I'm assuming he still like broke laws to like get through whatever checkpoints he needed to get to. He definitely seems a little selfish and disreputable, which, you know, I don't mind. I like him a lot. He's very Malcolm Reynolds to me.
Malcolm Reynolds with way less personality.
Well, yeah, sure. Thus far, I feel like, you know, we haven't had much time with him.
So what? Malcolm Reynolds in the first like 5 seconds of being Malcolm Reynolds on screen had loads more personality than Okona has in his 4 episodes.
Yeah, you're probably right there.
I'm absolutely right. One line, we're too pretty to die.
Yeah, it's a good line.
Better than anything Okona ever did.
but yeah, I liked the episode. I thought it was fun. I thought, you know, like I said, it was schlocky and silly in places, but I even kind of liked the Joe Piscopo stuff. Like, it just felt like silly Data stuff to me. Silly B-plot Data stuff that was, I don't know, I enjoyed watching it.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, it's enjoyable in as much as this an episode of TNG, which I don't hate any Star Trek enough that I don't have some enjoyment watching it. Like,
yeah,
there's still that level of comfort. I've still got that, like, there's still that feeling of, well, at least I'm with family. It's not like the worst thing ever. Any Star Trek is not the worst thing ever. For sure.
You know what I really thought? You talk about him being disreputable and whether we trust him or not. I thought the whole time he might be really about to turn on the kids because he takes them to this, like, he owes money or owes something to people at this station. And he brings this, like, highly experimental ship with, like, a crazy weapon on board, with a like all this stuff, and he brings it to this, shipyard, and I'm like, this does not seem good at all. Like, this seems like he is playing those kids. Like, he's like, I know a place we can, get this done, and then he's just going to turn the ship over to, you could totally see him just being like, you kids stole it. I stole it from you. It's fine. And like, I worked at a shuttle for you in the deal. You can get back to the Federation that way or something.
Right. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that, like, we'll get one more shot with Okona at least in the next episode or two or something.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Where, like, we find out a little bit more, because this episode of Prodigy, Masquerade, really kind of left me feeling a little flat. He takes them to Noble Isle and takes them directly to this Dr. Jago geneticist who, as far as I can tell, had no reason monetarily to do anything to Dal.
Oh, I thought it was just because she like enjoyed the experimentation. But yes, I agree with you. There was not a good monetary reason.
Yeah, like, she's like, well, you didn't bring me my shipment, but you brought me something better.
You brought
what's
me
in it for you?
Specimen. Well,
what's in it for you?
I think that she just like wants to see what she can do with all that genetic potential or whatever,
Right. And then, like, part of me, like, it would make sense if Dal is what she said he is, of why, if he was just nothing but genetically engineered straight from a petri dish.
Yeah, I called this.
Cool.
I called this 3 episodes ago when he walked through the thing and they're like, report to Starfleet. I was like, I bet he's genetically engineered.
But there is a thing, though, like, because, like, when you look at the board of all the different traits, all the species and stuff that he is, they have symbols for the Dominion and the Maquis. And those are groups. Those are not species. Not that those kids would realize that. But it made me feel like it was all bullshit. It made me feel like possibly, and I hope it was bullshit and not like them screwing up Easter eggs. It wouldn't make sense.
It could be that, like, the symbol was of the Maquis, but, like, the genetic code was of a member world or something like that, the Bajorans or something.
Yeah, but the Maquis were made up of all sorts of different species. Right. It was a terrorist group. It wasn't a race.
Yeah. Maquis. Dominion, I was thinking, makes more sense, like, because there were a limited number of races. So
we talked about Jem'Hadar. We talking about the Changelings.
Right.
We talking about
but
the
there
Vorta.
Are a limited number. But there could be. I don't know what they would mean by the Maquis. That does seem silly.
So, part of me hopes, one, we can reconcile that with, one, having that being a trick from Jago to just, like, have a bunch of symbols up there and maybe Dal is actually something different.
Yeah, I think, based on the way this episode went down, it seems to me that was the real answer. That is what Dal is. He is a most likely human hybrid augment. I took that as, also, like, whatever Jago did worked, like, it worked on.
Yeah.
So, like, whatever Jago was doing was, like, a real thing that could be done to him.
It could, but if Jago is who Jago claims that she is in the first place, she probably could have done that anyway. I mean, maybe. She certainly messed with this Instant Essentia, gave her the neck button too, that made her look Trill and be able to pass for Trill on the Dauntless.
We don't know that Jago did that, right?
I mean, it was the same neck button.
Yeah, I think that was just supposed to be a signal to the audience that she has a similar implant or whatever. But yeah, I didn't.
Again, I hope that's not true.
You hope it's not. It needs to be Jago.
That needs to be Jago. That is really friggin' lazy. If they're given the exact same button to two different characters, like, oh, it's not connected.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd call that lazy. That to me, that's like saying two people using the same phaser that didn't relate to each other. I don't know.
And by the way, this episode had one of the worst things for me is a reset button where they're like, oh, we're going to undo everything he just did.
Sure.
And I was like, no, I need stakes. I need consequences. I need this kid to actually have to deal with this. You know, like,
I agree with that. You know, once he started like getting all beast looking and stuff, I was like, yeah, they're not going to keep all of that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, as soon as that happened, which is a bummer. That's the sign of a kid's show, honestly. Like that's
the sign of Star Trek.
It's not all Star Trek.
Most Star Trek, TNG and Voyager, definitely.
Yes.
TOS,
Well,
yes.
I agree, especially in the middle of the season. If you're having drastic changes to your, like we're smack in the middle of the second season, they're not going to do something.
They're going to change them just enough that they can have a new action figure of them.
You just let the second season thing slide right by.
No. I'm so tired of talking about it. You've worn me down.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
We're now in the fourth season of Prodigy. And because every week, because it's a hiatus between 6 days, that's the season.
Yeah, absolutely.